educational concerns for hunger organization. And this is an interdenominational global Christian organization. And as such, we have a mission, and that is to provide people with agricultural skills and resources so that they can grow food under difficult conditions. And in so doing, why we are also offering a blessing, to the Lord for giving us all these resources and skills, and that will also be a blessing to mankind. In one of my, during my meditation this morning, I kind of flipped, and then sometimes one does that when you're thinking and meditating, and I was just flipping my Bible, and I came to a Psalm 103, and says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, for all the benefits that He has given you." And I said, why do I have to bless God? And it turns out, as I delve into that question a little more, it turns out that it is paying a debt of gratitude, to a great God. So, anyway, that's how I think. So, at Echo, we do not grow large quantities of food or have large herds of animals. But this is a living classroom, and as the name indicates, education. And we have formal, informal education here. I wonder whether you are aware that this is the southern campus of the Osal Institute of Environmental Studies. Okay. Sometimes you Google, the Osal Institute of Environmental Studies, but this is the southern campus of the institute. And so there's a lot of education going on, be it, hands-on, workshops, demonstration, formal and informal courses there. Okay? And I understand you are in the permaculture class, well, I'm not going to be able to give you credit.
We already got our certificate.
Oh, okay. Congratulations. All right. Okay.
We tried to fit you in before we completed, but it didn't work out.
It didn't work out. I guess we
wanted
did
to come together after,
so
we're certified. Some of us are certifiable.
All right, I just got it. But just to let you know, I came from a farming. My father's family came from farming family, and during Second World War, of course, we were all farmers. And I have a brother who's an agriculturist, and his contribution was in one of the viral problems of rice. And I don't know whether you're aware that the International Rice Institute is in the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And my brother also helped develop a foliar spray that would make the mangoes bear twice in the year.
Wow.
Okay. And unfortunately, I say unfortunately, because he was so generous and he did patent and he did not, make a distinct trademark or something like that. And so eventually somebody else, took over, and that was the end of that. And two of my sisters are also horticulturists. So naturally my hobby had to be gardening and fishing. So I get some food and then fertilizer for the plants. There you go. And so it's always been like that. In my next life, I was a clinical professor of surgery at the Peoria School of Medicine and a general and chest surgeon. So when I retired, you know, my wife claimed that I was bugging her because she never saw me when I was working. And I was trying to read to her the Wall Street Journal, so she kept me up. And I had to enroll right away because that was the last day that the Lee County Extension Service was offering a Master Gardener's class. Yeah. So I took that, I got a certificate. So then I told my friends there in Illinois that I can now sign my name MG instead of MD. And there you go. And then, you know, I realized that I was a generalist, so I had to go back to 3 days of classes, you know, nothing but citrus, until it began running down my ears. So I became, to a certain extent, I also became a specialist. Well, this is the best part of the story. About 3 years ago, one of the interns taking care of the birds out there called and said, there's a duck whose neck is all torn up. I don't know how, but every time it ate, why, all the food was coming out. So I got to fix that duck, and it lived, and they called it Lucky. And so I can now, since I still have a license, a medical license in Illinois, I can now say that I'm the only bona fide quack surgeon. Right? So, we're going to have fun. We're going to, well, I thought that talk I get you entertained at the same time. You know, better give your money back. Turn on the video or this short introduction, something like that, and then we'll go on. Some of them even have their master's degree. We've had several people that have come through, and they had one from Canada had her master's degree in molecular biology, and one had from Nebraska and had a master's degree in plant toxicology. And boy, sometimes I go working with these people, you know, I feel a little threatened. But that's okay because I can fix a duck. Anyway, this is a working farm. This is a working farm. And right now, because of the 2 successive winters, it's not over yet. Yeah. But we've really taken a beating. You know, last year and this year, we're taking a beating. So cold. You're not going to see, you know, verdant green and as luscious a growth as you've seen in the video. Because all the interns and the volunteers, you know, are in the process of reed planting and cutting down, pruning, and all those kind of things. Well, I was given a hint that you would like to spend a little time in the appropriate technology building. That's perfectly fine. I'm not an engineer, but I'm pretty familiar with what's going on. We'll go out this time. Broke down, so all night long, the volunteers and the interns were working and making that pump go. I like to start here sometimes because when we try to start a tree planting program or any planting or any project for that matter, you know, there are a number of reasons that the people would be hesitant to participate. And in growing things, of course, especially fruit trees, their reason is, why should I waste my time when I cannot enjoy the fruits of my labor? And that's very true, because in a sense, when you plant a seed of a fruit, ordinarily it takes anywhere from 5, 8, 10, or sometimes 12 years until that tree can be consistently be productive. Okay? And so they would like to see, you know, fruits of their labor, and you'd be wise enough to say, okay, here's a plant that in 1 year or less, why it's already bearing green fruit, and such green fruit is a vegetable. You don't have to wait for it to ripen. It's a vegetable, and it has another tree, for example, would have multi-purpose. Multi-purpose for that one tree. And you're looking at a good example of what, maybe where you come from, is it Miami, most of you? Or,
Tampa.
Oh, Tampa. Oh, no, look at that. I was just there Wednesday. I was just there. Hey, Anyway, okay. You will not see jackfruit in most of these areas because it is a cold-sensitive plant. But this tree, from the time you plant the seed, in 2.5 years, it's already bearing fruit. And the young fruit is a vegetable. And then it ripens. Once you've smelled a ripe jackfruit, you'll never forget it. Because there's a distinct aroma. It's not as obnoxious as a Limburger cheese, for goodness sake. But anyway, it's a distinct aroma. And when you cut the ripe fruit, there would be 3 components that would be edible and provide nutrition and food. The carpels, sweet carpels, are about yay big, and they ordinarily about little yellow oranges in color, mostly yellow, and that's pretty sweet. And then the seeds, as big as a big toe or something like this, you can boil or roast that, and it's just like a chestnut. And very tasty, and again full of nutrition. And then in between the carpels, where there would be tough components of that ripe fruit, and you can chew and chew and chew when you want. But if you cook that in syrup, and in countries where they, cook and make their sugar cane juice and that, so while all of that is cooking, where they just dip those things in there, and they make a good candy. Okay, but when the tree is grown where there is no winter, they can go to about 50, 60 feet high. And the lumber or timber is more prized than the fruit.
Oh, wow.
Okay, because it comes pretty close to the quality of teak, and many of those mature jackfruit timber are much, much better than oak, and they are really termite proof when they are really mature and processed properly. Termite proof. Okay. And before the advent of synthetics, the latex from this tree was our household glue. So it's very sticky. You cut make a cut in the trunks or the branches, then the latex will just ooze, and that's what collect and process, and it is a household glue.
Wow.
And if you keep or if you have a mental picture of how beautiful the Buddhist monks' robes are, they're like this. The dye comes from this tree, from the bark or from the sawdust when it is
saffron
cooked.
color?
Huh?
The saffron colored robes?
Yeah.
Really?
And when it's cooked with, when it's the sawdust or the bark, when it is cooked with alum, then you get those brilliant colors and that sort.
Wow.
Okay. Now, one of the reasons that a person may not participate in a project is why should I get involved in that? I heard that if you take care of that fruit, you might get a hernia. And you'd laugh. How can a fruit give a person a hernia? you're looking at one. In places where there's no winter, there are some varieties of the jackfruit, and we've had this in the Philippines, you know. There are some varieties of the jackfruit where one fruit will weigh 100 pounds or more.
Wow.
One fruit. So their reason for not participating in your project is pretty valid. Okay? And then again, one of the things that they will probably say is, why should I plant that? You know, I heard it doesn't taste very good, and if I eat the fruit, I might get a diarrhea and I get sick. And who's going to take care of my farm? Who's going to take care of my family? Where I'm going to get all that? So we have to keep all those varieties in mind. And so we can introduce to them a canistel, and a ripe canistel, or some people call it the cheese egg fruit. Why? The taste is really akin to baked sweet potato. So they're already familiar with that taste, so they'll accept that a little bit more readily. Okay? So those are the kind of things that we have to keep in mind as we try to introduce some kind of a tree planting or a project. In general, that, you know, the short duration of time, that they should be seeing already results of what they are engaged in, and that when they begin to see, you know, the results of what they're doing, then they will have some kind of a cascading effect. Okay. Now, nuts are very nutritious. Okay.
Yeah.
This tree here that you see, that's the Malabar chestnut.
Really?
And it's very easy to grow. And once it has grown, it usually takes a little bit more water, but, you know, close to where there's a nearby source of water. But but once it has grown, you can just forget about that, and it will continue to grow as long as it's not going to get frozen at that. And fruit will be as big as my wrist, and then when it matures, where it will split into 4 or 5 chambers, and then you'll see the nuts that are very attractive, colored in, you know, different brown and light brown.
It looks like it's a fast-growing
it is
tree.
And the nuts are either eaten raw, boiled, or roasted. Malabar chestnut.
And what about cold hardiness on the Malabar chestnut?
Well, as you can see, the water sprinklers cannot reach the top.
Right.
But as long as the ground is not frozen, so you see the Malabar chestnut and so many other fruit trees like the, you know, jackfruit, why they'll, you know, bud, and then maybe lucky if the next year's weather is not going to be as bad, they might fruit. Okay. We'll go this way.
Okay.
One of the prized ingredients. Tea. Okay, there you go. Now, tamarind is also something that you should be familiar with, because you are in barbecue country. And, you know,
You can find
the best, or one of the best, I should say, one of the best barbecue sauces that, you know, enthusiasts claim is made of tamarind. When it is green, you see, and then the Hispanics and the Asians like to use the green because it's sour as part of what they make into a salsa or some kind of a sauce of that. And then as the thing ripens, why then it becomes sweet. Now,
It looks like an acacia.
well, it does, but this is an excellent tree to be planting in your yard if you have a good sized yard, because it does not break. The branches are very flexible. It's not brittle, and they can, when we were growing up in the Philippines, this was one of the trees that would be our favorite climbing tree, and we naturally play monkey, cut a citrus. There's the head, and then there's a little one coming out. That little part down that way is called the petiole, and this is the petiole, just one layer after another. Okay. In the Philippines, we have varieties of bananas where the flower is sweet and it's vegetable. So when you have the last hand of the fruit coming out, then need to cut that flower off so that the energy being spent on this will go up the fruit. Okay, well, we leave those things in there because it's for demonstration purposes. And you see, this is the component of the flower that if it is edible, if it's an edible flower, why, oh boy, that really is frozen. Yeah, if it is an edible flower, why then this is what you would pick out, and as you go, then, it will look better and better. Whoa, gee, it's still frozen way in it.
Wow.
See, I've gone around the whole farm and tasted the flowers of all the bananas here, and every one of them bitter. But when you're using the banana flour for cooking with it, you must remove what look like a matchstick. Every flower has that part. No amount of cooking will soften this. So once you have removed that and cooked this, and if it's the good variety, then you can mix it in your salads or in your stews and all kinds of children. Yeah, that's nice. It can be used as posts for house, and that's what my grandfather did. We have gigantic canes. The base of the canes are bigger than my thigh. And if you can imagine using that as a post for houses digging into the earth and will last 12 to 15 years, you'll appreciate how strong the wood really is. And what makes it very strong is the natural construction of nodes and things like this. Plus, bamboos have the highest content of the chemical called lignin. And that is what mixed with the cellulose to bind that cellulose, to make it a hard wood. Okay, and so there's many uses of bamboo, and there are various ways of propagating them. Most people will dig a calm. You can't just cut them inside, by the way. You have to have a saw or an axe to cut them. They're all connected with similar types of things inside there. But if you have time, keeping in mind that bamboos are grass family of plants, if you have enough bamboo that you can cut, like this is still green, you clean the thing up, stick it in the ground, water it, it will grow. But if you want to make a lot of plants, what you do there is cut a short segment like this, and just remove a sliver such that this ones will be kept intact, and then the roots will come off the base of this, and you'll have a new plant. See? And I'll show you, if you remind me, I'll show you some varieties of the older clumps right in there, where you see the branches already having roots coming out. Fascinating machinery, or you might call them that, but we won't talk about each of these things. We don't have that. Besides, I don't know a lot about this thing anyway. That's not true. They would not allow the women to dress with pants, and they would not allow them to up on a bicycle, just the way the culture is. So you cannot easily introduce a multi-purpose bike where if they want to do a little woodworking, where they can power their lathe or something like this with, pedaling on this bike, and then when they need to use the bike, they will just unstrap this thing and they can use it as a regular bike. Mm.
Wow.
So, but like I said, you have to be very careful with what are the cultural restrictions, that. Well, we'll put, we'll just put a little emphasis on three things here in this, three things in this building. Okay, next to our need for air or oxygen and then food is water. Okay, and disaster after disaster, we'd rush to get in there, bring them plane loads, ship loads of bottled water. Well, sure. That's what most NGO, organizations do. They all converge in there and hand them all these things. But they are not teaching the people survival on longer terms or development, what we would say the arm of development, so that as time goes on, why they'll be able to continue and even improve their life. And that's what we try to do. Okay. So purification of water is one of the things that is very important. And here we have a variety of ways where we can, help people purify polluted water, just like even what you'll see there in that pond. Okay, depending on what is available as your food. Now, the use of moringa seed for purifying water was done in the between the early 1980 and things like that. Problem with getting old. The data bank is all. But anyway, the work of purifying water using moringa seeds was done by a German lady scientist working on the Nile. Okay. The moringa seed pods are like fruit are like this. When you shell this, you'll have the moringa looking like this, the moringa seed. And then you shell that, then this is what you get. And then you powder it, okay? And so seed powder, crush that in the pound or, grind there, crush that. And what she did was to stir the moringa powder in the container and just stir that vigorously. And, she also had her learning experience. But in due time, she learned the right proportions of how much powder to how much water. But what happens is that there's a coagulum that will form as you stir this powder vigorously for about 2 minutes, and then allow this bottle of water to settle down. And in settling down, that coagulum will take more than 90% of the contaminants, including E. coli. Now, this much we already know, because that report...
It attracts the
it binds them all.
So it's acting as a flocculant then, to drop everything out of solution.
And so you and I are not going to drink unless, that's the last resort. Well, the next step she did was to solarize this. And so she took that, gingerly poured it out in another plastic bottle. It has to be plastic because the glass, even if it is clear, will not allow the UV rays to penetrate them. It has to be clear plastic bottle. Okay, then lay it out there in the sun. Okay, so the way she found out whether the temperature of those water bottles there was reached high enough that it would kills the contaminants or the bacteria in there was with an indicator using soybean oil and water in a small thin tube there. And naturally the oil will float. Okay. So she sealed the ends of this tube and laid it alongside the bottles that she was solarizing. And from time to time she went to check that until the time when the oil and the water mixed readily and there's no more separation. Okay. Because all oils have melting points. Okay. So when she pursued that observation, turns out that the soybean oil will melt at 156 degrees Fahrenheit, and almost all, if not all, the contaminants, the germs and larger, viruses were killed at 151 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was a very safe way to die. And you see, so far, all these bottles that we have laid in there, they've been there for several months, and they're staying very clear because they're being purified and being sterilized by the sun almost every day when the sun is shining. Okay. Now, if the culture already knows a lot of ceramics, because that's what they use for making their cooking pots and stove. So they can easily bake the clay and make something like this. And if they incorporate the fine sawdust in that jar, the making of that jar, then it will allow the filtration of the water a lot faster, but it's still not taking care of the germs in there. But if there's available a colloidal silver that they can paint inside, then that would be the disinfectant or the bacterial killer. Okay. Then the other thing is where if you have the Berkeley filter, for goodness sakes, this will eliminate about 99 to 100% of all the contaminants, but it's very expensive. And then from time to time, why they have to clean that filter, and if it gets clogged up and all that, then where they gonna get another replacement of that? See, so a natural biofilter or using the biosand is also a fascinating, when you put in a container different grades of gravel, coarse sand and then fine sand, and then you pour the water. The tube is actually come here and then come out this way. Okay. Then in about 2 to 3 weeks time, there will be a film, a biofilm that will form there, and it's really a combination of fungi and bacteria. And okay, say, how can bacteria and fungi, purify the water?
It's a lichen.
Well, anyway, antibiotics are made out of bacteria. And there are certain fungi that will produce antibiotics. So, there's a natural way of the algae and bacteria that forms there that will kill other bacteria, and so you come out with a purified water. But the problem with that is it takes a little bit longer time. So, if you want to help somebody very quickly in reliable way, the Sawyer filter is the one that is now certified by the government, and it's readily available in the market. And the cost will depend on the size of filter that you will be buying. Now, this, by the way, the label that came with this was, it is filtering 0.2 micron. And micron is a very small. So, okay, very reliable. And it comes in a kit with instructions on how to adapt it into a bucket. And you can keep pouring water there and flowing, and you'll be getting about 450 gallons a day. And then when the filter, you feel like it's getting clogged up, you backflash that with the syringe that will also come with the kit. You know, clean that filter up and then put it right back there, and you're in business again. Now, if you're going camping or hiking and things like that, I used to think when I went to several times gone to Canada and Alaska, I used to think that all those, you know, streams way up there, I thought they were saying, not anymore. Not anymore. So it is good and wise for somebody to take with them a live filter straw. You know, those are also available now. You dip your cup and you suck it with the filter straw, and then you won't get all the diseases that are found in the stream. Okay? Yeah. Oh, that's a thing about filter. They cook with charcoal or firewood. And naturally, they will be finding and cutting firewood someplace else or making coal. And even if you plant a tree, you know, at the time that you cut down a sizable tree, it will take years until you get a significant size that will be recut. Okay, so we teach them how to build stoves that are energy efficient and at the same time get that smoke out of the confined dwelling, because we now know that in those instances, if they cook 2 or 3 meals a day in the open fire, the mother and maybe a baby and a toddler, you know, got in there, it will end up with lung diseases, which is the equivalent of smoking 1 to 2 packs of cigarettes every day. And you know how damaging that really is. Okay, so going to be a chimney if there's not enough ventilation in that dwelling. But when you burn wood, you have to attain a certain temperature and then it will burn. And if you cannot control the segment of that wood that will be burning, you're wasting a lot of wood. Okay, so easy to do that. Regardless of what kind of stove that they are used, except the open fire, if you incorporate, you know, you incorporate a metal into where you pile or shove the wood, and you lay the wood this way, only that segment will burn because there's not enough air, or oxygen, so that will sustain burning here. The disadvantage with this kind of energy-saving technique is somebody has to be there to push that wood a little bit more often. Okay? But there's another way that we can add to that energy. Even if you try to build something that would be fitting, you know, that it's impossible to harness all the heat that's coming around here, going in every direction. So that if you were to incorporate a metal stud or a metal piece around that, then the heat would be circulating a little bit, and so warming up or heating up the sides of that cooking utensil, then they're saving energy. Okay? And so another way that we can help is if they build with this kind of stoves, if we incorporate a fine sand with you know, plastic particle of perlite or some of those things that is mixed in there, so that while they are cooking, that insulating material in there is also getting heated, so that when they turn the fire off, there's enough heat that has built up there that it will finish cooking the meat. Yeah. Okay, so there are many ways that we can work. So what now? If they have devastated and used all their, you know, firewood, making charcoal until that, well, we can teach them how to make cooking bricks. Oh, you love children with cooking bricks. These are just waste paper, cardboard, dried leaves, bark, you know, what you can get. grass, if it is available, just shred them all to pieces and soak them in water for maybe 2 days or 2 nights. Okay? And then you get a rocket science instrument like this.
I've got one of those.
Pour all that thing in there, okay, and then you squeeze a lot of bladder as hard as you can. And then what you have squeezed, you pack into a chamber, which is just a PVC drilled hole, and the piston is also made out of just a piston. Okay, so you pack all that thing in there, and I tell you, today there's not a country that has that does not have
Waste.
vehicle with wheels, and if they have vehicle with wheels, why there has to be a jack. Okay, so you construct this material or this frame, I should say, so that as you work the jack, the force isn't directed that way, going that way. So it squeezes all the water in the chamber, and then dry this in the sun, and you have a cooking brick. See, you didn't waste.
And that regulates the heat. And
Oh yeah, no, we burn this, and that's
Yeah.
why you shove it there in the stove. And we've tested these things already. 2 of this is enough to heat a pot of water, good for 4 cups of tea or coffee. So instead of people just burning and getting rid of all that, oh, go this way. Very simple construction. And this is just nothing but just a pallet of plastic that. But you try to get some of this shiny aluminum material, thin aluminum material, and then you can, believe it or not, during farm demonstrations here in March or April, now sun is already hot, we have a good day. We demonstrate that we can bake a cake in this thing here.
Wow.
We can bake a cake, believe it or not. Okay, so you can sit there. Now, one of the big problems in some countries is that they can be harvesting a lot, but they don't know how to preserve that harvest. So we teach them how to construct solar dehydrators. You've all tasted and enjoyed a dehydrated fruit. Oh, it's excellent.
Yes.
See, I bought a commercial dehydrator because I know I've placed a tent. So anyway, I've been dehydrating some of fruit and tent. And the solar dehydrator, very easy to construct. You know, all you need is just a corrugated metal that you paint black, okay? And then depending on how much heat and how fast you want that heat to be flowing will be determined by how high your chimney is and how big and wide your, sun ray collector is. Well, here, you stick your hand inside there and you will notice the big difference in temperature.
Oh, yeah.
See? That's that. So it's fairly simple to construct. It is pretty hot inside there, not really with, yes. And the air is just circulating this way, and the heat from here, because the hot, and hot air rises.
It's so
Okay, see? So you just build a dehydrator like that. And if they're lucky enough to come across a roadkill, they can make a jerky. Are you done? Okay. Water, for irrigation watering purposes is also a necessity, especially, in some countries, they can have a water source or they have already wells, okay, but they don't have some kind of bring that water to the above ground, and then once they got that above ground, why then they can use whatever conduit material that they have, to spread that water. The treadle pump can be mobile just like this, or it can be fixed. Okay. And this type of pump can draw water anywhere from 5 to 25 feet below ground level. Okay. See?
Right.
It didn't work too hard.
Look at that.
You see how much water is being brought out
Look
already.
at that.
Okay.
That is a lot of water for
That's
a little bit of
lot
work.
of water, and it's just a few pumps. But standing while pumping is very tiresome. So, yeah, very tiresome. So
Yeah.
you can adapt a bicycle saddle here so that you are sitting, and then, you know, if you have it such a way that if you can push that bicycle tire in there, then you can look this way so that
Yeah.
you know what that's. So
There
there are
you
many
go.
ways that you can, you know, have variation or modification of this pump. Okay?
That is amazing.
See? So this pedal pump, the way that this is constructed now, was invented by the Russian engineers.
There must be a check
Yeah.
valve.
Is that the other
Yeah.
side of it over
Huh?
there? Is that the other side of it, right over there?
The other side of the pond,
Yeah.
or that? Yes, just pull it out there.
Just from the
Yeah,
middle
just
of
from
the
there. Yeah,
Just from
Okay.
the edge?
just from the edge of there. And we have to return that water because we are way behind here. We're way behind in water. And you can see how low that pond is. It usually should be right above that pipe. It's a lot of water. See? So you see you have construction of all these different kinds of pumps that, you know, Earth University in Costa Rica. And these are cement things with an incline. Okay. And what we're doing, I'm trying to learn is what kind of material do those red and green worms want to hasten the, you know, degradation and digestion or things of that. We know that if a volunteer would put a bucket of citrus leftovers there, well, that's not good. Anyway, because they are inclined, as they do their work over there, if you know, the rainwater is not allowed to go in there, eventually there will be liquid that will be forming and caught in that jug over there, okay? Yeah, and what we're trying to find out, okay, is in addition to that fertile liquid, does it have insecticide capabilities so that as we water the plant, is it also doing a, you know, job of keeping down the insects? So, and the worms, of course, why they can be used as food for the small birds or the chicks or the ducklings. If you're, you know, raising quail, you know, many people don't think that quail is a very good subject, but there are more and more Asians in the country, and one of the things that they prize in their cooking is a quail's egg. All right, the Pharaoh quail is the one that is an excellent variety with that. Okay. So that's about the work. Now, about the nutritional value. we call that the poor man's vegetable in the Philippines. So the growing up in the farm is truly mother's best friend because there's always something that they can feed and cook and feed the kid. See? Yeah, but sometimes nursing mothers also dry up. Okay? And that would be unfortunate if they can't find any milk. But if that happens, then the nursing mother will begin eating moringa, anything, leaves, the flowers, the pods, the seeds, and 3 days milk will be flowing again and that baby will live. Yeah. Now we know with all the investigations going on that ounce per ounce the moringa green leaf really has a lot more than what we had thought of. An ounce per ounce, it has more potassium than the banana, more calcium than the milk, and more vitamin C with all the citrus or the Barbados cherry or things like that.
Well,
And,
7 amino acids.
yeah, I think there's several amino acids and things like that. And we had an intern here, in addition to his work, why one of the students in the local school had a project trying to find out, fertilizer capabilities or fertilizing uses of moringa. So there's a lot of uses.
A lot of potassium.
Yeah.
It's got to be good.
Wood and food for the small animals, even chickens. We have one of our volunteer staff here, George Peckham. He was a big-time poultryman with the Purina company. He big-time poultryman in Venezuela. And he told us that when they began incorporating the Tifrosia leaves in their chicken feed, they reduced the cost by 1/3.
Wow.
See? So that's a lot. Your chicken growth. And then you can use the red mumbin or anything like that. And then over there, where you can use the jatropha, more grows closer to the ground and can survive in very poor soils and things. This one is being touted here as an alternative source of fuel, and we're trying to discourage them because it takes about 5 years from the time you plant the seed until it is productive. Okay, and then it is cold sensitive. So if we have a hard winter, then the tops are frizzled. It may not kill the tree, but it will delay a lot of the fruiting. And one of the big things that we have not started building infrastructure of making biodiesel from plants or from oil fermenting. We can make alcohol, but it's from also no, I won't go into that.
Nah, it's all right.
I won't go into that. But anyway, this variety of jatropha is commonly nicknamed the physic nut. Relatively small spaces where they can grow a lot of things. And you might be wondering why we have those flowers in there in between. You're all familiar with the technique of companion planting.
Yes.
Then all those leftovers can be animal food. They love that. And the jicama tuber, also water chestnut, it's a lot cheaper. They all have, just like a, well, turn around and here we have a bunch of avocados. Well, they're just part of our avocado collection. But you can teach the people to plant.
Amaranthus. I think that's supposed to be Caudatus, C-A-U-D-A-T.
This is a plant that thrives on neglect. And you can use it for fencing or for a windbreaker to a certain